What's up, vinyl community? It's Robert Fithen, and yes, I know I look ridiculous, but it is time to go back to the 80s. Now, I usually don't talk a lot about straight-up pop music on my channel, so I thought it was about time to do that. I'm usually talking about rock or garage rock or soul. I did a whole hour on classic country, all that good stuff, but I want to do 80s pop today, specifically 80s pop albums that were really popular or had a big hit on them or something, that never went to CD or went to CD in some sort of altered or changed way. So the original vinyl is actually the best way to get this album if you want a representation of how it was originally released. And these are all 80s straight up pop albums. Now, we're not going to be talking about bands like Shotgun and the Movies and the Invisible Bands Band and the Pinups and Henry Paul and Jones and Crew. Not going to do too much on Dream Boy or Susad and the Next or whatever in the hell this is. What is this? The Eric Martin Band. That's quite dorky looking. No, I'm not talking like obscure 80s albums that never got the CD treatment. There's plenty of those. These are major artists. So let's get started. Culture Club, Kissing to Be Clever. This came out in 1983 in the US. Huge album, of course, contains Do You Really Want to Hurt Me and I'll Tumble For You, Church of the Poison Mind. Is just a big hit-filled album. It's actually a pretty great album from Culture Club. And this is the way that it debuted here in the U.S. with this nice purple, very colorful cover. When it was released in the UK, it kind of had a black kind of frame around it. Kind of looks more like a goth album than the fun, upbeat kind of reggae pop that it actually is. And it doesn't have the song Time Clock of the Heart on it, like the US one does. Starts off side 2. So this was released on CD just one time when it first came out. Super rare. Not a lot of those made. I haven't seen them anywhere. And then all the CDs after that were based on the UK track listing and the UK cover. So the only way to really get this, unless you can track down that one CD, is to get the vinyl with the purple cover and the US track listing with the remixes of a few songs on here too, like I'm Not Crazy and a couple of great album tracks on here as well. So Culture Club, Kissing to Be Clever, first one we're going to talk about. Second one, how about Rockwell, Somebody's Watching Me? Remember that song? A great video for that with a crazy mailman and all that. Michael Jackson lends his voice to this. Rockwell also had another single called Obscene Phone Caller that's on here. Never released on CD, only on an album. I think it may have got like a Japanese release. But I'm not counting those, by the way. The limited edition Japanese releases or the boutique labels where you don't know what the master is. It was, probably taken, off of the original cassette or something. I'm not worried about that. I'm talking about legitimate American U.S. releases that are CD releases from the company. And this did not have one, even though it literally had Michael Jackson featured on it. Now, Rockwell came out with 2 more albums. Neither of those were released on CD either, including the one that came out in 1986. How much is your record company not even caring about you when you come out with a release in 1986 and they won't even release it on CD? By the way, his father was the head of that record company, by the way. Duran Duran Rio. There's 3 different versions of this U.S. pressing of this album. Be like a Taylor Swift fan. You got to collect all 3. What are they? Well, they're basically remixes. The first time this came out, it basically had the same mixes as the UK version. It got a little remix, though, because it didn't sell too well, and kind of danced it up a little bit for America. Now, the second version has these remixes on there, including a mix of Hungry Like the Wolf. That's 4 minutes and 2 seconds long. These were released by a guy named David Kirschenbaum. Okay, the original producer was Colin Thurston. Okay, the third release, which is the one this is, the one most people have, is the one where Hungry Like the Wolf is 5 minutes and 14 seconds, but it's the original mix from Colin, just elongated, looped with a big instrumental part on the beginning of it. So all the other tracks on side 1 are those American remixes, and then side 2 was always unchanged. So yeah, 3 different versions of Duran Duran Rio, but I definitely suggest the either the American mix of Hungry Like the Wolf, the second edition, or the longer one on the third. The screaming is louder. The ah! That kind of stuff is louder on the American mix because, it's American sex. It's going to be louder. No, seriously, I have the report right here. It says that right here, American women tend to fake their orgasms louder than women in the rest of the country. So yeah, it's true. It's probably why those moaning and groaning is louder on the American version. Apollonia 6 never released on CD, and she's like a Prince protege. Not good enough for CD, though, even though she was the star of Purple Rain. The only way to get this is on vinyl, or, of course, cassette as well. But yeah, Apollonia 6. didn't get the CD treatment at all. She's a sex shooter. You know who did, though, is Vanity. Vanity 6 actually got a CD release, but not Vanity's follow-up, Wild Animal. A little too wild for digital, honey. You're going to have to stick to analog with that kind of Wild Animal approach. Vanity there, never going to CD with that release. Let's talk about Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston's debut came out with a song on there, of course, called The Greatest Love of All, remake of a song that was from a movie about Muhammad Ali or something from 1977. This came out in 1985, and there's basically two versions of this. There is a track listing on the album. That's how you can tell which version you have. The Greatest Love of All is either with a real piano behind it. Now, that's the first issue, and that runs, I believe, $4.49 or $4.55. And then the synth version, which replaced it on the album, which is the single version and the video version, runs $4.49. So that's how you know by the times which one you're getting there. The longer one is the one with the piano. You know, I hear the Whitney Houston, The Greatest Love of All, and really all I can think of is the incredible, beautiful remake of this from Randy Watson and
Sexual Chocolate. They play so fine, don't you agree? I believe the children are our future. Thank you. Teach them well and let them lead the way.
I mean, that really can't be. It doesn't really matter with the Randy Watson version if it's a piano or a synthesizer. It's still just as beautiful. Let's talk about David Lee Roth and Eat 'Em and Smile. When his first full-length album came out after Van Halen, people kind of wondered, is this going to be more like Crazy from the Heat and kind of a showbiz type sound, or is this going to be rocking out? It did rock out a little bit, so much so that he decided to make a Spanish version of it, just like Peter Gabriel did with his album. He did all the vocals in German. David Lee Roth did all the vocals, redid them all in Spanish for Eat 'Em and Smile, and called the album Sonrisa Salvaje, which means savage smile. And no, I did not use Google Translate to look that up. I have so much useless information in my brain. I literally remember watching the MTV interview about this when they asked David Lee Roth, and he said that it meant savage smile because Eat 'Em and Smile, for some reason, doesn't translate to Spanish. So that's the story behind that. Once again, 80s albums that are record albums and cassettes that were never released on CD, or if they were, it was in some sort of altered version or something. So you got to get the original vinyl. The Spanish version of Eat 'Em and Smile, not really on CD too much unless you get a copy from somewhere else in the world. So no American real big release for that. We'll be right back, but first, let's hear a word from our sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Skullshare. Yes, Skullshare. In 1989, Cher released an album called Heart of Stone on this original album cover. Notice how it looks like kind of a skull there when you look far away, but it's actually Cher sitting in front of a heart. But is it a skull? You look at this and you kind of remember there was about 5 minutes where everybody thought, hey, could Cher be a rock star? Huh. About 5 minutes. They then released this in a different cover, a more generic thing, where she's kind of standing there with her hands, like, in her pockets in the shape of a heart, doing that annoying, like, heart hand thing, whatever that is, 30 years before it was annoying. Cher, Heart of Stone, I definitely prefer this cover. And, of course, today's sponsor is Skullshare. Be sure to sign up for some Skullshare, learn some skulls. Tina Turner, what in the world happened? I got this cassette. It's the same photo that was on the album. You gotta get real close because it's a cassette, but yeah. Tina Turner, Private Dancer. This is on the album like this as well. And what a great photo that is, right? And a great track listing as well. This photo was so great, it inspired an HBO TV movie called Who's Gonna Shoot the Picture with Roy Scheider. It's kind of a fictitious, kind of half true, half fictitious story about the photographer of this. And a guy in prison wants him to shoot his last photo or something like that. What in the world are we doing with this cover? This is the CD cover now. This is the UK cover. She looks like, I don't know what. That is not a good cover. That's not good right there for Tina Turner, Private Dancer. But this is what's available now in the US. Now, it does conclude the Beatles' Help cover, which is not on the US version, and the songs are all out of order. But yeah, I definitely prefer the running order of the original US version, and I definitely prefer this cover with Private Dancer, absolutely. Pac-Man Fever. We had it. but it didn't last long enough for CDs to come out. So you're only going to find this on this Buckner and Garcia. JJ 22 Explosive Hits was showing this on his 1982, his vinyl tag for his 1982 album. Look at this. Gives you all kinds of little cheats there, how to get through the maze. But yeah, they didn't have Pac-Man Fever long enough for when CDs finally came out. So you're not going to find this on CD. But here's something quite strange. Yeah, you'll find that on 8-track. And that's actually, yeah, they were still making 8-tracks all the way up until 1988, by the way. The mail order Columbia House and whatever, making special versions. Michael Jackson's Off the Wall. I've talked about this very briefly before. But yeah, the very, very early pressings of this contain a very slight remix of Rock With You with some panning changes, some instruments on different, speakers and whatever. But it's very, 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 very slight, but technically it is never been released on a CD except for like a Japanese fan box set that's impossible to get. So there you go. Another instance of an album being changed after its release. Billy Idol's debut originally came out with a song called Congo Man on it, which I've now finally heard the song after all these years. It's not really a song. It's just somebody banging on the congos and I'm a Congo man for like a minute, and that's it. Thankfully, you want the later ones. It was replaced by Dancing With Myself, the remix, which is considered the Billy Idol solo version, where the guitars are kind of tuned down. But yeah, Dancing With Myself, you can see here the sticker pronounces it now has, announces that it now has Dancing With Myself on this album. There's the Kmart price tag. And yeah, you probably want this one, not the one with Congo Man on it, which, by the way, that version was never released on CD. And this does come with an earlier sleeve, but also ones with this sleeve, some of them have the Congo Man on there. Look for the CHR prefix. That's different from the FV prefix. And just look at the damn track listing on the back. What am I talking about? So, yeah, there you go. Madonna. Just when you thought everything had been released on CD from Madonna, not really the original version of Burning Up, at least in this context. Burning Up is the third song on the album. It was originally released at a little, like 4:48, I think. And it's kind of a synth dance version. Of course, it's Madonna, but they remixed it, edited it, and put a little guitar action in there, rocking out a little bit. And that is the replacement version. That's the version that's on the CD and anything you'll get of Madonna's debut. I thought that when they remixed it, remastered it, whatever, put the bonus tracks on there, they would put that original Burning Up on there, but they did not. They put the 12-inch dance version, which is longer and different. The original Burning Up only on the original album. So there you go. If you want to get that from Madonna. The synthy dancey longer Burning Up is on there. Got to check the times on the label because they're not on the back cover. Speaking of Madonna, if you want your vinyl a little bit smaller, the 7-inch remix, the 7-inch formal mix of Dress You Up is still not available on any CD that I've seen. Now the 12-inch version is, but not the 7-inch version. This is the version that the radio station I used to listen to called KWK in St. Louis used to play. So I used to hear this on the radio all the time. And the only way I've ever found to get this is literally on the promotional 45. It says, the number in DJ. And if you look really closely, it's Dress You Up on one side and Dress You Up Remix Edit. And like I said, that's the 7-inch formal edit is what it's called. And that is only on that 45. I had not seen that anywhere else. I know Dress You Up got released as a single CD, and that version is not on there. Speaking of 45s, did you know that if you play this 45 from Pat Benatar, you'll hear a little guitar action in the beginning of the song. Hit Me With Your Best Shot, of course, from Crimes of Passion. But that has the album version. That version is on all the compilations. I've never heard a Pat Benatar compilation with the actual single mix of Hit Me With Your Best Shot with that extra little guitar in the action at the beginning of it. So that's pretty rare. Only way to hear this is on the 45. Did the Rolling Stones ever get around to releasing Think I'm Going Mad? The B-side to She Was Hot. Great song, by the way, and like my favorite Rolling Stones video, She Was Hot. But yeah, Think I'm Going Mad is the B-side of this. I'm not sure. It may have come out on a Rolling Stones CD at one point or another, but I have not seen it. And are they ever going to release the Rock of Fire Explosion on CD? Yes, the house band from Showbiz Pizza, of course, later became Chuck E. Cheese. Here's the Beatles medley, but they did have an entire album. Will that ever be released on CD from the Rock of Fire Explosion? It's a music war, and it was only released on CD for 5 minutes. So you definitely want the album of this, or the movie, really. I mean, you want the movie so you can see Klaus Nomi, like, as a visual. It doesn't really do too much if you can't see him. But yeah, this has a lot of people on there. The Police are probably the biggest act on here. Go-Go's are on here. Very early for them. Solo Jules Holland, Steel Pulse, Scary Newman, I'm reading this with very dark sunglasses on. Echo and the Bunnymen. Devo, is that Devo on here? Devo is on here. Wow, I didn't realize that. Alley Cats are on here. The members are on here. Oingo Boingo, XTC, X. You get the idea. A Music War. Great movie. If you can find that on, you can check that out. You got to have it like custom made though. It's not really readily available. How about Motley Crue? They're not exactly pop, and I've talked about this out before. We can slip a little bit of rock in there. Of course, I'm just going to go over this real fast because I talked about this one before in my other vinyl exclusives video. But yeah, if you got the Canadian pressing of this on Elektra, you've got the original Leather Records pressing just on a major label. That's the Canadian first pressing. Leather Records put this out, all different mixes, and then Elektra came along and remixed it. And those original mixes sometimes show up as bonus tracks, but there's never been a full-on Motley Crue re-release of those original tracks on CD. Gary Newman. Hey, Hubtunes, are you watching? Gary Newman and his album here. This has an early version, since this is the promo, an early version of the song, Remember I Was Vapor. It's changed a little bit. The synth is kind of changed. Parts of it are removed, muted out, whatever, in later pressings, but this is the early one, and this version is not on the CD releases. The CD releases keep the second version on there where they remixed that song. So there's some Gary Newman for you. Glenn Frey, you think he'd be popular enough for a CD release. This did get released in 1994, 12 years after it came out, but pretty rare, very expensive, hard to find. I've never seen it in the wild, so best just go with the album of No Fun Allowed with the big hit single on here, The One You Love. This also has Party Town on it. Party Town is the station that morning shows across the country in America and probably elsewhere used to play on Fridays, and everybody's going to go to Party Town, and and they play the song, we're going to Party Town, yeah, Glenn Frey. Get that on vinyl, hard to find on CD. Oh my God, the Pointer Sisters. Are we really up to the Pointer Sisters? I think we are. These guys, these ladies came out with 3 different versions of this, just like Duran Duran. All kinds of remixing going on, all kinds of, it started off with a song called Nightline. That got replaced by the remix of I'm So Excited, and that Nightline song has never seen the light of day since. So if you want Nightline from the Pointer Sisters, you've got to get a first pressing of Breakout. Let's move on to New Order, Substance, 1987. This Perfect Kiss on here is almost a minute longer than it is on the CD release and the remix or remastered CD release as well. They kept the short version. This is where you will find the long version. Of course, a lot of these are just basically 12-inch mixes that are put on here, but if you want to hear them in order and you want to hear the full-length Perfect Kiss, get the vinyl version of New Order, Substance. Okay, Sex Packets from the Digital Underground. This is a weird one. I can't quite figure this one out because the cassette has like 3 songs that the CD does not have. I don't understand that. I get the record because, the record can't handle all that music. It's too long. But usually when there was bonus tracks on a cassette, they'd show up on the CD too. Not this instance. The only way to get songs like Hip Hop Doll and Throwback to the early days, and there's a couple more on here. The only way to get those is with getting the cassette of the Digital Underground Sex Packets. So yeah. By the way, I don't even think you can see that I've got these ridiculous socks on and these Cars shoes. These are my Cars shoes with the Cars right on them. 80s here. I dressed up looking ridiculous, and you can't even tell. What about the great comedy albums of the 80s? A lot of these just too funny. They had to stay in anal log, to quote my comic friends. Here's Bob and Doug McKenzie, and that never made the light of day on a CD. Rappin' Rodney was only rapping on album and cassette. Joan Rivers had a big album then. Sam Kinison, Louder Than Hell. Too loud for CD, apparently. Got to get that on a record or a tape. And then there was a Bette Midler one, too, and all kinds of great comedy that never really caught on in the CD world. They just figured, I guess, people don't want to buy CDs with talking and audio, all that on there. They want music at the time. The Cure. This one's real interesting. This one is, I always get these backwards, which is which here. Okay, this is Staring at the Sea, the singles, and this is 17 tracks, A-sides. This is Standing on a Beach, the singles and B-sides. This is the CD and the album. This is the cassette. This has like 18 more songs on it. This has the A-sides on one side, the B-sides on the other, and it was never released that way on CD. I thought when they re-released this, they would come out with a 2-disc set. No such luck. So yeah, you can get those songs on things like Between the Dots and other CDs that have been released. But in order to get Standing on the Beach like this, all the A-sides on one side, all the B-sides on the other, you pretty much have to rely on this cassette. You get that great song they do called I'm Cold. I always love that song. Did they ever get around to putting the actual real version of Billy Thorpe's Children of the Sun on CD? I don't know if they did or not, but I know that they never got around to putting this one, East of Eden's Gate. I've never even opened this. Probably not very good. But yeah, East of Eden's Gate from Billy Thorpe. This has never been released on compact disc ever, so get the vinyl if you want to hear that. Billy Rankin, he was with Nazareth for a while. Great song called Baby Come Back. I love that song. I love the video. It was only around for about 2 minutes in the 80s, 1984. But this is a pretty good album. But I love that Baby Come Back song, and it's on this one called Growing Up Too Fast. Again, no CD release from that. Probably some limited edition, vinyl thing or something like that. But Rupert Holmes, this is his follow-up called Adventure. This is not the one with Pina Colada song on it, so this never made it to CD, that's for sure. And I really don't know anything about this album. But the reason I have this album is because the note on the front of it that somebody hand wrote is so damn funny. It's like, I'm not sure if this has Pina Colada song on it that you wanted or not. I think it does. What do you mean? There's the track listing right there. Of course it doesn't. There's somebody's little disclaimer note there going, well, I wrote on the note, I thought it had it. What? This is like a 3-hit wonder, though. This is Irene Cara. She had Breakdance, she had Why Me, and she, of course, had Flashdance, What a Feeling. But the way to get that on the CD is with the Flashdance soundtrack, because this was never released on CD either, just cassette and album. Star of DC Cab, Irene Cara. Whatever happened to her? We got other one-hit wonders, too, that, they had the one hit, but you're not going to hear their album tracks on a CD. People like John Parr, remember Naughty Naughty? Well, that was a CD that was an album that saw no CD until like way later in the 2000s. Again, another like Japanese release or something like that, limited edition. But the album, record and cassette for Naughty Naughty John Parr. It does not have St. Elmo's Fire on there, though. That's on the soundtrack. Also, Tracy Ullman, You Broke My Heart 17 Places. She had a big song called They Don't Know. The video had her superimposed with Paul McCartney. She, of course, later on, launched The Simpsons on her Tracy Ullman show. But her album, again, no CD release for that in America. A really rare one in the UK, but that's about it. Listen to it on the album. Of course, the American album is MCA. The much cooler UK album is on Stiff Records. Speaking of other countries, Men Without Hats, Rhythm of Youth. The American version contains the longer Safety Dance, kind of more of the dance mix. The original Canadian version, the songs are all in different order, and it has the shorter video version with more music in it, that Safety Dance in there. So if you want the original American one with Ban the Game going into the Safety Dance and the songs in that order, you have to get that on either vinyl or cassette. Men Without Hats and Rhythm of Youth. Also, Billy Ocean. This is just really a cooler cover than the one that he came out with, and in order to get this cover, you have to have the record. Also, those little remix EPs that never came out. This extended play from NXS called Decadence, which features remixes of a bunch of their songs from that time. On Atco, never released on CD, although some of the remixes were released as bonus tracks in different places. Scandal had their very first album as an extended play as well, and it did not get on CD. This is, of course, the one with Love's Got a Line on You and the awesome Scandal song called Goodbye to You, not available in this format on CD. Tony Basil, Word of Mouth. There's a one-hit wonder for you, and of course the hit is called Mickey. This album is interesting. It's got 3 different covers of Devo songs. It's got Rock On, a cover of that. And, of course, it has Shopping from A to Z, her second single, which did nothing, probably because it's a horrible song. Definitely a Mickey. And Mickey's a little bit longer on here than the single version, by the way. But, yeah, Word of Mouth from Tony Basil. UK version came out a few months earlier. Totally different track listing. A couple of different mixes. And then this one comes along with a couple of new songs on there. So to get the US one, again, cassette or album, it never came out on CD. As a matter of fact, that's not even really streamable. I didn't really see any of those songs on the streaming, but I think that her career probably would have lasted just a little bit longer if she wouldn't have come out with that god-awful Shopping from A to Z as the next single. I mean, there's 3 Devo covers on there. Pick one of those. Shopping from A to Z is this song where she goes through the grocery store and she goes, A, apples, B, bananas, C, cream of wheat, and all these, just with every letter. They get to X and they say, oh, nothing. No, I'm sorry, you got to commit. If you're going to do a whole song about being in a grocery store, shopping A to Z, then you commit. You better find an X. You just don't get to say X, O, nothing. That doesn't work that way. Talking Heads came out with this on a cassette with longer versions of a lot of the songs on here. Longer versions than the vinyl had. So if you get the vinyl, you actually get shorter versions The original CD that came out with this, the Target CD from Japan, as they're called, very collectible. That had the original LP versions, but the rest of the CDs that came out after that, the more common ones, all have the longer versions of these songs. So if you want to get them in their original shorter edits, you have to pretty much get the vinyl of Speaking in Tongues from Talking Heads. I know Making Flippy Floppy is one of those songs that have that treatment. Dolly Parton, Burlap and Satin. Never, can you believe a Dolly Parton album that was big in the 80s was never released on CD? But that's the case. Burlap and Satin, this is the one with a potential new boyfriend on it. That was the single at the time. But kind of more of a pop album even, but no CD treatment for this at all. But if you wanted to go through 80s country albums that were huge that never got to CD release, that's an entirely different video. Dokken, Breaking the Chains, just like Motley Crue, came out on an independent label, a little bit of a different cover going on, just slightly, and then the mixes are different as well. Remixed when it went to a major label, those mixes just stayed with vinyl. The CD version that's been out in the US is just basically the no bonus, no remix, no remaster, no nothing. It's just those remixed tracks. And to get the original versions, got to go with the original label, the original cover, and the original vinyl, of course. All right, now we're up to the Beatles. How did I work the Beatles into an 80s pop video? Well, I did it, didn't I? With the Beatles movie medley. This has never been released on a CD, and the only way to get this is on the 45. Beatles movie medley came out when this album came out, Real Music. Basically, just another Beatles compilation. It was the third Beatles album I ever got, though, so pretty early for me. But yeah, this is just like edited together little snippets of the song. Not very good at all, but you do get a nice B-side with I'm Happy Just to Dance With You. And speaking of Beatles, in 1980, this came out. This is rarities with rare versions that hadn't been released in the US. And some versions of some things that are exclusive to this, like this I Am the Walrus, where, you know, instead of the beginning, instead of being like do 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 do, this one goes do 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 do. So yeah, you get more doo-doos with this one. It's also that way on the aforementioned Real Music album. What do you think the count is on how many times I've shown Real Music on here? Now, all this stuff never released on CD, but you know what was released on CD? 75 different pressings on CD in the US alone. The Beach Boys' Pet Sounds. However, the Beach Boys medley, just like that movie medley from the Beatles, was never released on CD. This came out right about the same time, same label, Capitol, same concept. Let's just throw a bunch of Beach Boys snippets of their hits together and make a new song for 1981. And that's pretty much what they did. The Beatles, or the Beach Boys, did I just confuse the Beatles with, oh wow. The Beach Boys medley, not available on CD. And that's really all. I mean, there's more, but we could go on, but that's pretty much the cream of the crop. I mean, you got the Whitney Houston thing, the Madonna thing, the Talking Heads thing, The Cure, the New Order, a lot of big bands in there, Motley Crue, Dokken. So a lot of things that I'm surprised never came out on CD. And then there's things like, you know, the Tracy Ullman album where it's kind of like, I can see that. So yeah, original vinyl, even in the 80s, even with something as mainstream as pop music, you can still find things that were never released digitally. And if you want a physical piece of that music, you've got to get the record, or, you know, if you really want to, you can get a cassette. I'm Robert Fitton. Thank you so much for watching. I'm finally going to take these off. Oh, wow. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking the video if you liked it, and give it a thumbs up. And please consider subscribing if you haven't done that yet. Always putting out videos. Hopefully you'll enjoy them, but you'll always make sure that you catch them if you're subscribed. And once again, always thank you to the vinyl community members for putting out great videos. Very entertaining, and please keep them coming. I'm Robert Fitton. Thanks again so much for watching.